Thanks for coming, bro. I'm very excited. This is a little not per usual of the type of videos that I try to make, but I thought that having you on this would be a very interesting perspective on family and marriage. So before we dive into that, I've known you since third grade, but I don't think the viewers have. So
I've
I
known
just
him
want to,
since third grade too.
yeah, I'm not. So I think it'd be nice to get a bit about your background, kind of where you grew up, and you know start from there. So where'd you grow up?
Streamwood.
Yeah,
I moved there, attended third grade. um,
10th to third grade.
no, I attended third grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in Streamwood, then lived in Streamwood again, closer to you,
Yeah.
and then moved a little further away in Streamwood, but still in Streamwood too.
So when
Uh,
did you leave Streamwood?
when I was 18.
Okay. And at this time, where have you become Muslim at this time?
No, I was 18 then. I became Muslim when I was 20.
Okay. So from Streamwood to Muslim, how'd you get there?
It was a long drive. Uh, well, I guess growing up with you at least let me know that Islam was in the world. Other than that, I didn't know anyone that was Muslim, or ever talked to anybody that was Muslim. So just the things you had always told me growing up that
And this was not the point of this, by the way.
no, I know
mean,
for sure,
yeah.
for sure, for sure. Just that the Quran is a book that's a guide for you in your life and everything you did, and it was always compelling to me. And just knowing the beliefs that you had, it was good. I always kind of valued, in a way, indirectly what you had. I wanted it, but I didn't at the same time. Um, it wasn't until much later, after I was 18, that when I was going to college at ECC, Elgin Community College, and there were some Muslims there that they had given me a lecture series on Lives of the Prophets. And listening to that, it was very inspirational, especially with my Christian background. I was Lutheran, and you sometimes hear names of prophets, and it's just stories. But then when you find out that these Muslims loved these people so much and revered them and held them in such high esteem, to where they would name their children after them and try to live the way that they lived. It was just so inspirational, and I fell in love with it. That was something that I felt I was just lacking in my life.
So what was your kind of relationship with religion before that point?
I always wanted a relationship with God, but there was no concrete methodology of pursuing that.
So you said you were Lutheran. So did you go to like church
Went to church, um, and it's more morals of how to conduct your life, be a nice person. In the book of John, it says this, and then you read a story about Jesus, and you kind of learn based on maybe what he did, and then you take a lesson from the story and how you can apply that to your life, and that's like the lesson of the week. And then you sing songs and listen to music, and then eat your bread and wine, and move on, back to life. Um, but observing Muslims doing it, it was just much more sincere, much more involved. And even when I was a little kid, I always wanted to pray to God for a certain amount of time every day. I just wanted to set time out of my life and out of the world and just be with God. I didn't know how to do that, and there's nothing in Christianity that offers that really.
Mm.
You can make things up, but that's exactly it. It's kind of like, what do you want to do? What do you want to give up for Lent? That's not really a Protestant thing, but it's all based on what do you want to do to make your own journey to God.
Mm.
Whereas Islam, it's like, no, this is what Allah wants you to do, and it's very organized. And I love that. I think that Allah created us to need that.
So kind of, seeing the religious background, but what about the family background? What was kind of the family situation?
Well, you tell me. I mean, what if I were to ask you, what type of race or culture kicks their kids out at 18.
Yeah, I mean,
What would you
I
say?
saw you as a typical white boy, right? Like,
Okay.
I was a Desi kid, you were the white guy. Um, Parents telling you to be home at a particular time and to
Mm,
go at a particular time. Very regimented type of a typical white family that you saw on TV. That's kind of how
mm-hmm.
I saw you guys. I know that your parents were divorced. You were living with your mother and your stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's kind of where I was getting at, right? In terms of the family dynamics, in terms of your family living situation,
Mm.
what was that like?
Well, that's just it, you know. And from my culture, it's usually um, it's not as tight knit as you'd want it to be, or I wanted it to be. I love my parents; they love me. If you guys are watching this, please forgive me for anything I'm saying about you. Yeah, they always loved me, but in white culture, American culture, it's usually the parents have to work to make an income. So then, what's happening to the kids? They're either at a babysitter's house or they're at school. Then the parents are so exhausted that by the time they get home from work and the kids are home from school, everyone's exhausted. They just want dinner, and then everyone just kind of goes off and does their thing. There's not really a lot of uh, true family connections, and that's been from age 0 to now. You know, growing up with that, it just becomes the norm, and it's just like, well, whatever. Then you hit that high school age, and I'm not talking about all white families, but just the typical family. It's okay, so what are you going to do in life? And it's like you're 16, 17, you don't know anything. Um, Back in their day, when they were 17, 18, it's like, okay, you could just walk into a place and get a job.
Yeah.
You had an interview right there on the spot. We're hiring. But it's like, okay, well, this is 2005. It doesn't really work like that.
What do you think was the intention? What was the intention about, okay, at 18 years old, you got to get out of here and make it on your own?
Be a man, you know, figure it out just like we had to.
Mm.
But the difference is the environment setting of which you could figure it out. In their day, you could go get, like I said, you could go get a job and there was nothing. Now you're making money. Uh, you wanted to get out of the house, doing your own thing or live with a buddy or something like that until eventually it progressed into something where you were successful. But um, nowadays there's a lot of drive to have to go to college and get wrapped up in that whole thing. Um, so you can't really do both. You're 18, you're on your own,
Yeah.
and then you're trying to figure out, you know, what am I going to do with my life? I now work at Elgin Community College all the time. There's so many students that I see that happen to be white, uh, and the same situation. Out at 18, they go to, you name the college, they go live on, or university, they go live on campus. Uh, they don't know what they're doing with their life. They end up failing, but they're 40, 50 plus $1,000 in debt.
Yeah.
They failed a lot of their classes, so now they're back at ECC.
So, I mean, is that like juxtaposing with maybe how the Desi or like the Muslim families you've seen or Desi families you've seen, like how, kind of that 18 transition? Is that,
No, Desi families, I would, from what I've observed, they tend to allow their kids to live at home,
mm,
which is phenomenal. It gives them a support, which is what families should do.
yeah,
Is provide a support for their children, and also, I guess one thing I see more common now is that you have women wanting to have a career, the man having a career, and now you have two careered individuals. Well, they're now going to fall into that same thing that white culture has,
mm,
where both parents are careered, they're both working, so now you have the kids. There's not much of a relationship or rapport
mm.
with their
So you're kind
children.
of seeing us falling into that same trap of the,
Yeah, as opposed
yeah,
to following tradition. There's I don't want to call it Islamic value, but traditional values of having uh, a parent at home,
mm,
you know, taking care of things as they can, raising the children, and then you have another individual who's following the traditional role of bringing in the money or
mm,
working. Of course, it's a checks and balance, and you know, each family has to figure that out for their own. But when you have two people doing the same thing
yeah.
outside, and then they're now expecting each other to do the same thing inside, it doesn't work. You know?
No, for sure. And so, I know we're kind of skipping ahead to what, family and that type of thing, but, you know, getting back to ECC, you're between 18 and 20 years old.
Hmm.
You're learning about the stories of the prophet. You have these, great group of guys around you. So, let's go back there.
Hmm.
And so, what's going on, and what pushed you over the edge to take Shahada?
It was my studies in biology, really, um, that it really gave me yaqeen, or a true belief, without a doubt, in that there's something unseen. I had a professor, his name's Hani Qasmiya, and he's Muslim, but that at the time that didn't have any bearing on or inspiration of me becoming Muslim. Like, oh, he's Muslim, I'll be no. Um, but his biology class was very inspirational in that you how he organized the class. You started with subatomic particles making atoms, and those atoms making molecules, those molecules making uh, organelles, and then organelles making cells, and then cells making tissues and organs, and so on and so on, until finally you have this organism.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, well, if I'm made of those, if I'm constructed of those subatomic particles and atoms, and everything around us in the physical world is made of those things, you know, atoms can't experience happiness or sadness or memories or pleasure. Um, so how am I able to do that?
So,
How are you able to do that? And then you look at someone who's dead. At the time, there were a couple deaths in my family, and it's like, okay, well, if they're dead and they're constructed physically of these things, well, then why am I able to look at them with my physical eyes, but they're not able to look back at me with their physical eyes? They're made of the exact same thing. So there's something unseen going on here. And if this is what the teachings of how to be from the lives of the prophets and things of that nature, if that's how it is, to me inside, it also is kind of a gut feeling that I had, that it's like, well, I don't know if this is the right way, but I love it. I think there's so much benefit in it, and I don't want to die in a state where I'm not that. If I had any other way of life, and let's say we die and there's nothing, nothing, just darkness. um, Fine, but at least I could die and say that because I lived this particular way of life as a Muslim, and the teachings of Islam, uh, either way, if there's just complete darkness or there's benefit, I'm happy with either or. You lived a good life because you followed this way of life, so life's comfortable. I mean, not that it promises you money or fame or glory, but it's perception. So your perception of how things are in the world, how difficult times and good times, it always falls back to Allah's in control. And having that comfort and building that momentum and perception over years, you have a great life in this life, or in the hereafter. And actually, at the time, I was living with.
What year is this?
This was 2007 when I became Muslim. But just prior to that, in 2006, I was living with two. Can I say gay men?
Yeah.
Is that allowed? Gay men? Is
Yeah.
that still politically correct?
I think so.
I myself was not, but they knew that I had been kicked out, and they're like, well, and we had been neighbors, so it's like, well, why don't you stay with us? So I did, and at that point, I had every luxury that life could I could imagine that life could offer. Money, amazing clothes, amazing little car, parties galore, alcohol, drugs. Honey, if you're watching this, I love you. I'm not that guy anymore. But you're on top of the world, and you realize that if, let's say, I became a celebrity and I'm famous, okay, it would offer me these exact same things, just on a higher scale. But you have the whole dunya, as we'll call it, at your fingertips. If this is all this life can give you, then it's just going to be repetitively just this. Where then again, I would reflect on some of the teachings of Islam that I had come to know and understand, and it was just like, well, that's it. You know, that's an infinite amount of pleasure, because in my perception, it was the closer you are to Allah, the closer you are, or the further away you are from desiring all this stuff, the more comfort, inner comfort you have, and that's what Islam is. It's peace. It's something that provides you salam. Yeah.
So, do you remember that day, Masjid al-Huda?
Yeah. So all this is going through my head. At the time, I wasn't Muslim, but I'm like, I want to be Muslim, and I started fasting that Ramadan, and we hadn't talked for a while. We went through a couple rifts, and yeah, I called you up, and I said, hey, I was thinking of becoming Muslim. I want to take the Shahada. Because you were the first Muslim I ever knew, I wanted to recite it after you.
SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. Yeah, I remember that, man. SubhanAllah, 2007.
You said no and hung the phone up.
Get out of here, dude.
Who are you?
Who is this guy? No, SubhanAllah, man. SubhanAllah. I remember that day so clearly. But,
what was it like for you? I mean, what was your perception of me?
No, I mean, I saw you as this pretty boy. I mean, obviously we grew up since 3rd grade and all the way through.
I'm a farmer now.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm not a pretty boy.
Just growing up together, kind of seeing
Farms.
you.
Get yours today.
Yeah, that's why we're making this video, guys. Yeah, you can buy Zenny online. There'll be a link in the description.
It tastes sweet.
No, I just remember talking about Islam with you so openly growing up. Like we'd be hanging out and I would just pray, or we talk about fasting and since 3rd grade. Yeah, we talk about jinns. I remember I told you that if you don't become Muslim, you're gonna go to hell.
That was a powerful statement.
And how old were we? I think we're like.
But you know what, SubhanAllah, you were young.
Yeah.
And you were saying if you're not Muslim, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
As opposed to your mom, who I was crying, and I went to her and said, "Am I going to go to hell?" She said something along the lines that only Allah can decide that.
Yeah.
So it was like your actions could lead you that way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. My mom is wise. That's for sure. I was definitely not wise.
Yeah.
No, alhamdulillah. No, I just seeing that and seeing your journey. I knew the guys you were hanging out with. I mean, it was like a dream come true. That best friend and someone who knows you. You know them. You know their family. They know your family. Growing up literally next door to each other, and then being brothers that way, and then you becoming a brother even more so was obviously mind blowing until today. Obviously, we take advantage of that. So, yeah, it was obviously amazing. But kind of shifting gears, right? So, alhamdulillah, you become Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
I know you became BU MSA. I think things take you. You graduated from BU. Things take you to Kuwait. You teach there. So what's going on in Kuwait?
Well, even just to backtrack a little bit, just at BU, that was a nightmare.
That's why I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk about BU, man. I don't know if you wanted to talk about it, so that's why
it was a nightmare.
I was skipping over that, but yeah,
it was important because I think it kind of dives into what some of the things you wanted to touch on, and that as a new Muslim. Okay, so now I'm Muslim. Now what?
Yeah.
And at that point, my mindset and the momentum I had built for those 20 years was, what do I need? And you always have the satisfaction and the ease of getting it, whatever it is you need, when you're not Muslim. I guess if you are Muslim, you still have those same things, but there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah.
So now I'm Muslim. Okay, I'm Muslim now. I needed this in my life. Right? So then you say, what else do I need? Well, Islam says that you hear things that may be kind of over your head, but you don't know that yet.
Yeah.
So you hear it. It's like a little kid hearing a swear word. It's just a word, so he can say it. It's like, no, don't say that. So you hear these things. They're not swear words. And like, marriage is half your deen.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get half my deen in, so I need a wife.
Yeah.
And so you marry like the first person that's willing, and plus again you're focused on, well, I had these needs that I could address before, and I was able to. I still have those needs, and so I need a wife.
Mm.
And it's a challenging thing because you don't really have your family supporting you,
Mhm.
what you're doing, and all these other Muslims who, let's be honest here, are primarily Daciar Arab. They do have that.
Mm.
So who's going to want to take a chance giving their child to someone that, it's like, hey, honey, you're not going to have a family on their end that's going to be supportive of what you do, is going to understand what you do or how you do things. They're probably not going to eat halal food. You're going to have a lot of challenges and obstacles.
You're saying the person marrying you in dealing with your
Exactly,
family. Yeah,
exactly.
sure.
So
Okay.
the Muslim family marrying their child into
Yeah,
a non-Muslim with a not with a convert.
sure.
Um, so there's that.
So you started looking right away
In
for
a
marriage.
way, I wanted it right away.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, well, I can't do certain things. So how do I acquire this thing that I need? And again, you have so many years of momentum with I need it, I'm getting it, I got it.
Yeah.
Whereas Islam says, be patient, just chill. If Allah wants you to have it, you'll have it. And so that's a big challenge. So I think a lot of converts rush into the I need to get married thing without focusing on others.
So like, what was your concept of marriage? So like, you had this kind of white Christian Lutheran whatever,
Yeah.
Vision of marriage, and then
I never thought about it.
Okay,
It was just dating.
So then, how was that different than Islamic marriage? Was that the same thing in your mind? Like,
here, perfect.
Yeah.
Responsibility.
Mm.
Even before I became Muslim, it's like I was working at Walgreens as a pharmacy tech, and there was a Muslim pharmacist that came in, and she's like, I said, "Oh, you're Muslim." And she asked me, "Am I Muslim?" I said, "No, not yet," because I knew what I had to stop doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a lot of why people don't become Muslim is because they realize they can't have the dunya, or that they shouldn't. And so that was a challenge. But it's getting over yourself, and I think that's another important lesson in Islam that it teaches. If people get the message that you should get over yourself, in the big spectrum of things, you're nothing.
Sure.
So yeah, as a new Muslim, that's the focus, and then. It's like, well, where do I find someone? Am I going to find another convert? Those are few and far between. And even then, it's like, okay, well, you just became Muslim.
Yeah.
You know nothing at all. And then you find yourself, you're the MSA president of a big school.
Yeah, what year was it? This was 2008, I think. It was 2008 or 9.
Yeah, 2009, something like this.
And I remember you becoming BU MSA president.
And people look to you like, give me all the answers.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want me to talk about? give me a topic.
So being president, that must have made it easier to get married, right?
Well, I don't know if it made it easier to get married, but it definitely put me in the spotlight. And there were some wonderful families with...
and you'd have only been Muslim for like a year or two at this point, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still knew nothing.
It was funny because I think I actually pushed you up there to become president. I was probably stupid to do that too.
No, some people were encouraging me like, hey, why don't you do it? But it was like the white knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, how hard could it be?
Yeah.
But then you realize like, well, there's a lot to take into consideration, and I definitely wasn't ready for it. Anybody that was there that year, I apologize. It was like the what was it? I remember we had a big conference, and there were all these other schools that came, and one guy's like, "Hey, are you the president?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I heard about you. You're like what is it he say? The president of tyranny?" I was like, "Oh,
what?
Yeah, that's me.
The president of tyranny.
Or something tyranny.
Yeah.
So
you did get so did you end up married? You ended up getting married at BU.
Yeah, there was a wonderful Muslim family that they wanted me to become a doctor.
Mm.
They had a beautiful daughter, and you know the siblings, their sister, wonderful person. Um, Honey, I love you. You're the love of my life. Uh, but they're like, you know, there's just one condition for, you know, she likes you, you know, you like her, but there's one condition. What's that? You have to become a doctor. And I was like, well, I'm already going to be an educator.
No.
Like, no, well, all you have to do is be a teacher. You know, the medical school will be paid for, the house will be paid for, everything will be taken care of. You just got to get into medical school and do it. Okay, well, what kind of pressure would that be? A, B, you know, it's so wonderful seeming at the time, but it was just way too much pressure. And I think that same pressure, unfortunately, is put on a lot of Muslims in general.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, I take being a convert as any Muslim, to be honest with you. Like, when did you convert to Islam? And when I say that, when did Naveed? Just think about it. You don't have to tell the people. But when did you decide? You know what? I'm going to start praying. I'm going to start fasting, and I'm going to start doing all these things, not because everyone else is, but because I want to do what I need to do to be close to Allah. And that's by following his Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and things. You know what I'm getting at? Like, at what point in your life did that happen to you? So that's when you converted to Islam. Some people it's in their 40s. Some people it's in their teens. But everyone has to go through that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, I think, and for most people, it's college, right? I think college, it kind of shows you and makes you decide which direction you're going in, be it professionally, be it religiously. And I think that's when that was kind of my first awakening, you can say, is college. Being and living with a bunch of Muslims kind of showed me what it means, what brotherhood really means, and what Islam actually has to offer. And then I think second was Hajj. I did Hajj a few years ago, and I think that was kind of my second awakening, which really, again.
But you're married at that time.
Yeah, I was married at that time. Yeah, even in college, I got married really early. So I was married at that time as well. But just being amongst brothers and praying together and coming across so many different scholars and activists and stuff like that really attracted me to Islam in college. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you after you got married. You didn't get married, but you interfaced with this situation where you had the opportunity to get married, but this roadblock of becoming a professional kind of came in your way. And so to you, like, this requirement of achieving, becoming a doctor to marry someone, was that foreign to you? Was that normal? Like, how did you perceive that requirement from the background you came from?
Well, in the background I came from, there is no stipulation as if you like someone, And again, there's no responsibility. There's nothing there. It's just fun times.
Even for marriage.
Well, marriage, it's like, that's why usually people date for 10 years and they're like, guys, we're getting married. It's like, oh, yay. Like, oh, cool. What's different?
Married anyway, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was just one incident, but there were several others too.
So, like, what did you learn from, kind of, until you found, obviously we know you're married because you've been kind of giving shout outs to her, but,
Which one?
What lessons did you learn along the way finding who you found, in terms of dealing with the Muslim community or their requirements? Like, you talked about the professional requirements.
Well, my wife doesn't really fall into that. She's from South Africa and she became Muslim herself. So it's like, she would have gone through those same type of maybe it's different for women. I really don't know, but as a man, as the one that's expected to take care of a household and etc., it's just a different role. But again, I say it's kind of a gamble for people of the masses of culture, which is Desi and Arab.
Yeah,
it's a gamble. I mean, I was talking to my wife about it. Would we ever let our kids marry a convert? We are converts.
Yeah.
Would we let our kid marry a convert? It's like, well, maybe if they were Muslim for several years.
Yeah.
we knew which masjid they went to, kind of knew what they've been exposed to. Um, how are their parents? What are they like? Are they open to Muslims as people,
Yeah.
or are they kind of like, you're not our type?
But that's only one level, right? One level of it is being a new Muslim, but another level of it is, white culture versus Desi culture, for example. So do you
That's
think
there.
that, I'm not you ending up marrying a convert, quote unquote white, I know she's South African, but do you think now looking back that it would have made sense to marry an Arab girl or a Desi girl, or do you think that there's some wisdom in marrying within your culture, putting the whole convert thing
It
aside?
makes it easier. Well, my wife's South African. She happens to be white,
Yeah.
but the cultures, even the language, I can barely understand her half the time.
Get out of here,
You know, my my kids even will say, I'll ask them like, "Hey, how do I say water?" They'll say water, and
Yeah.
I'll say, "How does mommy say water?" Like woo. They It's just different. Um, the expectations of how you treat adults,
Wait, hold on,
it's
hold on.
different.
So you're saying that
It's
white
easier.
culture with South African culture is opposite?
No, white South African culture
Are
is
kind of
different than white American culture.
okay.
Just like Desi culture
Yeah.
is different than white
Oh,
American
really?
culture.
Okay. So it was like you
It's
married some
very right.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a different culture.
Oh, I see.
Um, in white American culture, if my parents did something that I didn't like, I'm gonna let them know about it.
Yeah.
Now Islam's like, just shut up and keep your mouth shut and be humble. In their culture, they have that.
Mm.
So, you know, yeah, that's kind of what I get. There's just differences of expectations, how you treat people, um, how you behave in society versus with your family.
Okay.
Uh,
No, because the
but there
reason I
are
was
cultural
asking,
differences.
no, I was asking because there's like this new movement of white converts that white converts should only marry white converts, and so I don't know if you had that feeling or if there's
What
any.
is this movement?
I don't know. So basically, like
Well, is
just like
this
how
in the
they,
Desi community?
you know how like Desis marry Desis,
Sure.
right? And
There's
like
comfort in it.
there's comfort in it. I think that's not a bad thing. I think it's actually a good thing. But like now, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of white converts now. So is that same movement make sense?
Where?
I mean, I don't know, downtown, and there's a whole community online, bro. Go on YouTube.
Oh, I
There's this
can't.
dude named Rob or something.
I don't have time.
Anyways, there's a whole bunch of white Muslims.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. There's this new guy.
Yeah, nothing against white
Yeah.
Muslims in general. And when I said like, what would we do? It's
Yeah.
all about again, where's that person at? Do they have a job? Do they have goals? Do they have a focus in life?
Yeah.
Um, my perception and upbringing is like, well, you're like I said, you're 18, you're on your own. Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But go do it on your own. There's no support or focus. So it's like, well, I guess I'll go to college.
Yeah.
Everyone else is doing it. So then you just kind of get mixed in. It's like, well, where are you going in life?
So the cultural aspect didn't have a big impact really on.
No, but now I can look back at that same family that said you have to be a doctor. I can appreciate the idea of you have to have some type of goal in mind because you're still in college.
Yeah.
We want our daughter to marry you, but you need some way to take care of our daughter.
Yeah.
Or our sibling. I respect that now, especially as a father.
Yeah.
But at the time though, it's like, well, why are you putting this stipulation on me? I'm going to be a teacher.
Mm.
That's up to them. Unfortunately, that's not good enough for them.
Mm.
Well, what if there's and there are some Desis that they just want to be a teacher. They don't want to be a doctor.
Mm.
There's some doctors that don't want to be doctors. They want to be teachers, and so they go be a teacher. So it's like, well, is there something wrong with that, or is it that that teacher is not going to be able to give them the life that they had?
Mm.
Of course, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said of the things to look for, and it was what is the family status?
Yeah.
What is their financial ability?
Of course.
So, but that's not their intention.
Mm.
If it truly was their intention, they would be able to then put that up front and say, well, this is what we're looking at. They wouldn't even come to me in the first place.
Mm.
Because I met none of those.
Yeah, that's interesting. So after BU, when did you graduate?
2010. 2010.
Okay, and then when did you go to Kuwait?
2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2012, you moved there to become a teacher.
Yeah.
And this is kind of your first view or first interaction with a Muslim society, a Muslim country, right?
in all Arab speaking world,
Yeah.
it was just completely different, even culturally. Here where I'm at, it's primarily Desis,
Yeah.
and you see how they are in Islam, and then you go to a place like Kuwait, and the Islam is there, but the cultural clothing that Islam is wearing, I'll say,
Mm.
it's a totally different color, a
Mm.
totally different outfit.
Yeah.
So it looks different, and you experience a totally different Islam in a way because of that cultural shade. Islam's still Islam.
Yeah.
The Aqid is the Aqidah. Fine. But you just see it in a very different light.
Like, can you give an example?
Uh, well, I can only say culturally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would meet a complete stranger and they would say, "Oh, you're Muslim." Well, they would grab your hand, "Come to my house for tea," and they go bring you, and you're sitting. They don't speak any English.
Mm-hmm.
I don't speak any Arabic, but you're still just smiling and having fun, and the kids are playing, and it's just such a wonderful time.
Yeah.
Or you're sitting down in the masjid eating, and or somebody just had a kid, and they're like, "Come on, you have these huge plates of food, like 3, 4, 5 of them, and all these men are after Isha staying and eating, and they're grabbing the food and they're putting the meat in front of you, and then they're feeding you, and if you don't take it, it's like offensive. You'll really break their heart."
Yeah.
Things like that. It's just a totally different world, and I'm not saying that that is Islam.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there's just so much culture, Arab culture in that you would only understand if you had lived in it or you were Arab and you had that culture.
Yeah.
Would Desis do that?
Maybe. I think
even here, Desis would eat around on the floor in a plate.
I mean, not maybe not here, but maybe back home, right? Maybe in Pakistan. And I think that's something beautiful that you mentioned too, is that when you go visit the East, be it the Arab world or the South, you know, the Desi world or whatever, the Islam has stayed within the culture and it's still made apparent, like you said, and the hospitality of it, the way you interact with people, the clothing and all of that. I think there's actually a lot of importance and a lot of vibrancy that it brings to Islam, you know, be it from the Arab perspective or from the Desi perspective, that we are trying to inculcate now, or we're trying to create like our own American culture, where I think that we can, but at the same time, I don't know if it's ever going to meet the same cultural richness that the Arabs brought or that the Desis brought.
Maybe then, and I guess maybe even in your line of work, like when people come to you for divorce, are they coming because of Islamic reasons, or are they coming from like American culture reasons?
That's a good question. I think most people come
because
to
like
me,
Muslims are here,
yeah,
they're taking on that
yeah,
shade of that American culture, whereas over there,
yeah,
it's like the Arab culture,
yeah,
or it's the Desi culture,
yeah,
like its roots.
I think I bring kind of the middle approach, right, where I understand the American system. I'm within the American system. I know these white judges. I know these white lawyers and everybody else. Or, you know, by white I mean
people that come to you.
Yeah, they're all Muslim.
Yes.
Be it Desis, Arabs, Africans, like all different types of Muslims.
But their reasoning for divorce.
Yeah.
Are they American problems?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, there's American problems, but there's also, you know, intergenerational problems. There's in-law problems. So I do think that there are some uniquely Muslim problems that are causing divorce in the Muslim community that aren't necessarily happening. Like, I wouldn't say it's one for one. Yes, addictions, alcohol, cheating, that type of stuff. Yes, that's the same as the major American society. But the other things like in-laws and like parents being all up in your business and crudeness, I think that's cultural. Yeah.
Is that like like back home cultural thing that's understood, but now you have the American culture clashing
exactly, because you come from a collective society versus individual society. But this is supposed to be me asking you questions, bro.
I'm trying to turn it. I
know, I can tell. Okay, Kuwait.
Yes.
How do you meet your wife?
She was a teacher there.
Yeah.
And I was kind of put in charge of the school to be a chaperone for the new teachers. When I first started, I started halfway through the year, and it was all older teachers. And they were so sick of Kuwait because it was such a culture shock for them that a lot of them left. So that following year, which is the beginning of a new school year, they brought in all these young teachers from all over the world. But they typically like to hire white people because from other parts of the world, not necessarily America.
Mm.
Um,
And you were a
That's a
biology
different
teacher at
topic.
Kuwait, right?
yeah, biology and chemistry.
Yeah.
Almost a doctor. So yeah, they like to hire South Africans because in a picture, and it's like American School of Kuwait.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of white Americans. But if you look at their passport and how much they get paid, they don't get paid the same amount as an American.
Mhm.
Anyway, so all these new young teachers are coming from Canada, a lot from South Africa, and I'm in charge of showing people around because I have some experience. So they take everybody on a field trip, just shopping, different stores. And so they asked, "Hey, could you chaperone these people?" Yeah. So I was introducing myself, hi to everybody, okay, and I there was two South African girls. How you doing? And so that was at least how we made first contact, and she fell in love with me, and
Mashallah.
so we all the expats are put in one large like apartment complex. So all the teachers are living in the same place. A bus comes, picks us all up, takes us to work, and then drops us all back off at the complex. So we all spend a lot of time together. And when we're in our individual apartments, it's just like a big house with a family with rooms.
Yeah.
Because we're all not Kuwaiti or Arab, this is the same thing with any at least in my profession, educational outfit in any place. So in China, same thing.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying. You guys get what I'm saying. So, yeah, we just spent a lot of time with people on the bus, going to school, and then it would be like, okay, it's the weekend. What is everyone doing? Oh, we're all going out for sushi.
Yeah.
Okay, let's all go out and eat. And then you just spend time, and eventually, you end up just getting married. It's like, what the heck?
Okay. And so then, how did that Islam aspect of it come for her?
For her, it was more. We were close with a Syrian family, and she worked with other Syrians, and a lot of them, their relatives and family were being killed, but they still had a smile on their face. I'm like, oh, Allah is in control, and she's like, how do these people have that? That their brother just got shot, or their other people, all their family members are in prison, or they can't get a hold of so and so because their whole town just got bombed, but they still put a plastic smile on their face and go to work every day. And they're still just, when I say plastic, they're holding back their tears, but they're like, well, at the end of the day, Allah is in control of everything. And she saw that and it's like, I want that in my life. I want to be like that. How do I do that? If it was Islam that gave them that, then I want it. Plus, I had talked to her and anybody that I could. But her in particular, she was very inquisitive. She defined herself as a happy, clappy Christian, whatever that means.
Happy, clappy?
Like singing and dancing,
okay.
like we do in the mosque. I'm a happy, clappy Muslim.
So what year did you get married?
Why you gotta ask me that? Don't ask me the day.
I don't care about the day, just the year.
When did I get married? 2013.
Okay.
Oof. I got it. Don't ask me the day.
Yeah.
So we got married in 2013. Yeah, and then alhamdulillah, we were living in Kuwait for 6 years after that.
Yeah.
5 years after that. And but then we had a child, and it's like, you know what? Where do we want to raise our child, in this country or back in America? And so we decided to move back.
And so when it came to like kind of roles, right, marital roles, or just family dynamics, right? For a Desi household, for example, there's kind of a traditional model. You kind of have the modern model in terms of working and raising kids and that type of thing. Was there a conversation that you guys had, or was that even a concept, or was that even a concern before or during your marriage?
As I mentioned earlier, when both people have a career, it's not an issue when you don't have children. You know what I'm saying? A woman, if the expectation of the traditional role is that the woman cooks and cleans and blah blah blah, and the man works, well, the woman can only do so much cooking and cleaning, and then she's doing nothing. So, both people working, which is what we did at the same time, it worked for us. You know, we got to save up money, we got to travel the world, you know, experience. I almost want to say single life with money and together.
Yeah.
You know, when you're single, you know, you can do whatever you want. When you're married with someone but you have no children, you can do whatever you want together.
Yeah.
It's great. Um, but then once you have, you know, children, then it's like, okay, are we both going to continue working? And if we do, what kind of rift is that going to cause with responsibilities?
Yeah.
Who's going to watch after our children? Or is one of us going to continue working? So we decided she'd continue working. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's not ridiculous.
I guess it's not nowadays.
No.
Does it depend on, you know, who you identify as?
No, I don't think that has anything to do with
No.
it. I mean, I think whoever has the better job opportunity.
I see.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Here, over there, it doesn't make. Like,
Yeah,
over
sure.
there, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess here that would be different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Alhamdulillah, we were
So
fortunate enough.
was that just a logical decision, or do you think Islam had something to do with that decision, or culture had to do something with that decision?
I think it might have. It wouldn't have been any of those actually. I think it was just my reflection on how did people do things in the past, and it just kind of made sense. That someone has to be at home to do the home things, and you know we have a child. We both decided and agreed that we didn't want someone raising our kid.
Mhm.
We wanted to be the ones very involved in our children's lives, and that's kind of why I chose the profession I have now. Beekeeping and honey farming, it's allowed me to spend the maximum amount of time I can with my family while my wife's not working. During the time that my children are very young, when they start going to school, okay, then I can go full time, you know, go get a job, whatever. My wife can go get a job.
Yeah.
I have a job, but you know, there's more. Like today, I was at the bees. My whole family came along.
Yeah.
We went and got Dunkin' Donuts, got coffee, some donuts. They're chilling in the grass, playing with stuff, and you know, I'm out getting stung.
And by the way, you have a master's in education, right? And you were like
Yeah.
a teacher for all these years, and
Yeah, I taught for 10 years.
yeah.
I was the head of a department for 6 years in Kuwait. I got my master's in administration. If anyone's hiring, let me know.
We decided to leave all that behind and
Yeah, leave it all behind. I actually started. When I first came back here. I started studying at Dar al Qasim. I wanted to at least give myself a good year of Arabic. You know, in Kuwait, there's Arabic. You could pick up some vocab words, but then you go to some place like Dar al Qasim and you're like, you don't know anything. Like, okay.
Yeah, mashallah.
So, just to get kind of a foundation going. So did that, but I was tutoring at Elgin Community College when I originally left the U.S. to go to Kuwait. So when I came back here, it's like, well, I'll tutor college students in biology and chemistry, and at the same time, I'll do Dar al Qasim. It's like no responsibilities at this job except when people come here, I'll help them with their stuff, and then go learn. But you know, then it's like, okay, I took a year off. Now what? And now we have a second child on the way. Okay, maybe one of us should get a job. So I had a hijama business going in Kuwait. I was learning hijama. You know the story, but for the viewers out there, I always had a passion for wanting to go to medicine.
Yeah.
Ever since that family wanted me to marry their daughter. I was always just fascinated with. Actually, it all stems back to that biology class of learning anatomy, physiology, pathology. It was just phenomenal to me how Allah Subhanahu wa Taala created us, and how we all are intertwined. All these organisms on the planet, how we're all connected, and so I used to study a lot of that independently, and so one thing that was always fascinating to me was how does something go wrong in an organism? So we call that medicine, and I guess how we address it. So I knew I didn't have the mental stamina or ability to pursue medicine, but I learned about this thing called hijama. I'm like, okay, well, if I could, help people with it and service people and provide them with this thing that is supposed to be some type of a medicine and is Islamic, cool. I'll try to learn it. I tried learning it here, but the company whose name I won't mention, they're based in Chicago somewhere. Uh, I asked them, well, could you train me? And they said no. I'm like, okay, cool. So then when I was in Kuwait, people would do hijama there, and I was like, okay, cool. It's like part of the culture.
Yeah.
You go for your monthly hijama, and the town I was living in, there was a clinic, and it was like a mini hospital where they performed hijama. They had a women's side wing and a men's wing, and I went to them. I said, "Could you teach me this? I've wanted to learn this, and I couldn't learn it in the States because the company in Chicago wouldn't teach me." And so, uh, or business, I guess. So they're like, "Yeah, if you teach us English, we'll teach you how to do hijama." So I'm learning hijama, and then one day I go to the clinic, and there was a woman with lupus, and they weren't doing hijama for her. They brought out honeybees, and they started stinging her with these honeybees. Like, what the heck is this? So uh, she got up pain free and walked out. And then another guy, he comes in. He had pain in his ankle. They brought out the bees. They weren't doing hijama. It's like, what are you doing? So they would sting him with some honeybees, and he's like, yeah, I come once every 2 months, and then my pain's gone, and I was like, walked out. Cost him $10.
No.
So then when I came back here, I decided, okay, I'm done with Dar Qasim. I'm at ECC. I have to get a job. What am I going to do? Well, I'm doing hijama already, and that's cool and all, but maybe I should offer this bee sting therapy as well. But I didn't know how to keep bees. I just knew how to sting someone. It's not rocket science. It's not medical science. So I got a couple hives and started keeping the bees, and no one knows about the sting therapy, but there was all this honey. And people love the honey, and that was also, it's mentioned in the Quran, and it was just so fascinating. Honey, right? Yes, raw local honey. This is our summer blossom. We harvest 3 times a year. Our spring blossom harvest will actually be hopefully at the end of June.
Yep, and you can purchase your honey in the first link, right in the description.
Thank you.
Of course.
So yeah, that kind of grew into what the honey business is now for us. So I do that. That's my primary job now, and I still tutor at Elgin Community College.
Alhamdulillah. So yeah, man. So just living the family life now.
That's it. But the roles, like you mentioned, the roles are important. So now, we're trying to create a balance. It's like, okay, honey, are you gonna work? Well, now we have 3 kids. Or am I gonna work producing Felton Farms honey? Have some generate the income, and then you're taking care of the house. If we were both careered, then it would be quite difficult unless we were working to get money, to pay money for someone to watch our kids.
Yeah.
Another issue with converts is depending on their relationship with their parents, and it's not necessarily always that convert's fault. They might want a relationship with their parents, but their parents don't want anything to do with them. So if they have kids, well, who's going to watch?
Yeah.
A family member's not watching. It has to be hired help. Whereas I think in the Desi community, that's a cultural value that you guys have. You don't put your parents in a nursing home. You keep them around. It's a constant family unit of raising the kids, supporting each other, making sure you're on your own 2 feet. Oh, you're on your own 2 feet. Okay, now you can go do your thing. Are you sure you're ready? Because you could always stay in our basement, and then finally you're ready to go off. With that mentality and focus and perception is not in my culture.
And so you see that you're going to put that in your children, inshallah?
Of course, I hope so.
Do you think that that's an Islamic value, or more of a, like, do you think that that's been sucked out of white culture?
I don't know if it's an Islamic value necessarily. I think it's a cultural value. Could I put it in Islam? Where does Islam...
I mean, don't say oof to your parents.
Of course,
and treat them with kind words.
that's fine,
You
but they
know,
don't have to be living with you for
yeah,
that.
they don't have to be living with you. Yeah, fine.
They
I
don't
see
have to
what
be
you're saying.
watching your
That
children
yeah,
for
the
that.
Daisies
Those
don't have.
specific
Yeah,
things.
sure, sure, sure. I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. That you don't have to have your parents living with you. That's
I,
a cultural thing.
yeah.
But yeah, respecting your parents obviously is
Yeah, I think like
Islamic.
we
Yeah,
mentioned, like the Islamic value of holding the family unit together,
yeah,
not burning your bridges.
yeah,
Where we live in the a few mom era, even you and I growing up,
yeah. I
we
remember.
grew up in that.
Yeah,
Someone doesn't like, I hate your guts. Tell your parents like nowadays you
yeah,
and I would be like, who are you talking to?
yeah.
It's your parents, but they don't have that. So you know that's just kind of how it is.
Were there any kind of white family values that you appreciated, or that you think Muslims can learn from, or that you are going to be teaching your children?
White family values.
Is that such a thing? Not just
Yeah, in a way. No, really, in
yeah.
a way. Um, I don't have an occupational expectation on my children.
Interesting. I do. Good.
Well, you're Desi.
I know.
Uh, so long as my children are able to work
Mm.
or find some occupation, whatever it is, that they're able to support themselves. But the Desi cultural aspect of that's in me now,
Mm.
and based on my own experience, will be to, hey, I need to support my sons or daughter up to a point where they are comfortable enough to now take off, not just
Yeah.
you're 18, figure it out.
So kind of mixing
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
It's blending.
Oh,
It's like a light brown, like mocha.
like a mocha. Caramel. Yeah.
Yeah, Caramel King.
That's right. SubhanAllah, man. Any other perspectives about, just convert being in the Muslim community or the Desi community, or, obviously people expect me to talk about marriage and divorce,
No,
right? And so that's what I'm supposed to leave, or else this doesn't make sense,
No, for sure. I just feel that if Desis, I don't want to say Desis, if Muslims that happen to be Desi follow that mentality of going and getting a career that has to be so challenging and vigorous, and that's the only way. I think that will soon put them into the same predicament as almost as white people.
Mm.
And
in what sense?
well, it's just a different type of challenge, and I'll give you kind of an example of how we see it manifest itself. Is that you have a lot of Desi women that are in their 30s and 40s and never been married.
Yeah.
It's just a challenge, not to say it's an exact match, but you put these challenges on your children, or you have to be a doctor and a hafiz of Quran.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
You remember what my mom said?
Yeah, I know. But let me ask you this: what challenges do you know of that someone who I'm turby tapping it?
Yeah.
Of someone who has to fill that, because if you had to be a hafiz of Quran, your parents never put that on you. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided you to do that yourself. But you're a hafiz of Quran, and now you're going to pursue law, and the vigor that requires in order to be successful and just get through the schooling. Did it, how do I want to say it, not damage, but did it make you struggle at all with your hifz al-Quran? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
pick one or the other, or
Yeah.
pick one track or line, one's gonna be sacrificed.
So no, I think for me it was a little different, right? Because I finished in high school. I finished right when I graduated high school. So that ability to strengthen while you're still in school, still don't have responsibilities, I think was the bigger challenge than law school itself. Because by the time law school started, I was married. I had a routine. I still had my Quran, kind of thing going. But college was what was harder than law school, I would say.
Really?
Yeah. College was harder for me.
Was it because you were married though?
That made it easy? Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. College, because I lived with like a whole bunch of dudes, I was having so much fun, freedom for the first time. That was actually harder to maintain my Quran than being in law school.
Yeah. I've even been approached. I used to go to Masjid al-Nur.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was single, a Desi uncle came up to me and he said, "You know, we're trying to get my daughter married." Oh, great! And I'm thinking, "Now's my chance."
How
And mashallah, he was a
much
very
time have we spent on here? Oh, we're at an hour mark.
wow.
Gotta wrap up soon.
Who's gonna watch this?
I don't know. That's a good question.
If you're still here,
Yeah, seriously.
let us know and we'll give you a free bottle of Felton Farms honey.
Yeah, just give us a code. What's the code?
What's the code?
If to get a free one. I mean, I don't think we should give away too many free ones if people are watching up
Well,
until
if you
9.
actually made it this far, just comment in the bottom. I was here for this long.
And then we'll send you.
And we'll send you a
one.
free bear of Felton Farms honey. Watch, they just skip through it. Let's say, is there anything good at the end?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. You get a free Felton Farms.
No, what were you saying?
What was I saying? You could edit this out.
That's okay, man. It's okay.
We could rewind it. No, we can't. It's recording.
Yeah, it's recording.
I've got a great idea. Oh yeah, the guy.
Yeah.
So he says, you know, we're looking for someone who's a Hafid of Quran, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can manage that. And then he's like, who's also a doctor.
SubhanAllah, dude.
Okay, that ain't me. Here's another one.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that having these expectations is it's good and it's bad, right? It's good to want somebody like that. I think you have to be that person to want that person.
For sure. You have
Yeah.
to be that person
Yeah.
to want that person.
Yeah.
But how many people are that person that want that person?
Yeah. That's
Well,
a tough
tell
one.
me.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Right? I mean, there's even this thing like only the top 10% of men are actually like attractive, and the 90% are just kind of leftovers.
Really?
I don't know.
So where are we?
We're in the leftovers, bro.
Why? We're taken.
No, what it means by
Mashallah,
like
mashallah, you're okay.
meaning like the elite men, I guess.
Are the
Anyways,
10%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where are we?
we're at the bottom somewhere, man. I mean, you're mashallah. You're good.
What are you talking about?
Anyways,
I'm a farmer folk.
farm.
Look at me. I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
Anyways, I think we should wrap this thing up. Any last thoughts?
You're really going to post this thing with an hour long?
No, why not?
How? Do you have to pay for that long? I don't know. I don't have any last thoughts. If I said anything offensive, I'm sorry. Especially to the whole convert thing. I am a convert, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would marry my children to a convert.
No, you wouldn't.
I
It's
kinda
okay,
went-
man.
What do you mean?
It's
I
okay.
would, but, you know, there was another convert guy. He even said himself that I said, what advice would you give to a Muslim that wanted to marry a convert? He said, don't marry them unless they've been Muslim for at least 3 years.
That's good advice.
And I think that makes sense because I've seen also people that are wish-washy.
No.
They've been Muslim for, 6 months and then they're like, it ain't for me.
Mm.
Many people. So I think that's what would it be is are they stable in their Islam? Are they making progress, or are they just I'm Muslim, I don't pray, but because I don't believe you have to.
Allah
Okay.
protect us.
And there's people like that.
That's for
You
sure.
know?
Cool, bro. I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank
And
you.
another thing.
This guy wants to keep going. All right, Jazakallah khair for your time. Thanks for agreeing to do this.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.